pretty unlucky week last week. I was meant to be moving into a rental with my missus and some friends, and that fell through because the owner decided to sell it out from underneath us less than a week before we were meant to be moving in. Not necessarily illegal because we ended up going through with it due to the compensation we received, but that was a whole effort and a half. I've got some notes with me because today I'm going to be setting up my laptop again. macOS Sequoia security update. I think it was like 15.1.1 or something like that, and I was going from 15.1.1 to 0.2, 2 gig update. Bricked my whole laptop. Don't know how that happened. It's probably the worst thing that's happened to me on computers in my entire life. I've been quite fortunate, I guess, to not experience too much severe data loss over time. I thought doing that in this room would be something special because this room is lost. Anyway, yeah, so don't mind me if I look over to my notes. I'll try and edit it a little bit and make it more concise. I want to just share my setup process because I'm pretty good at it, and I've got some tips that I think would help people, and also want to open it for feedback if you have any ideas that I can make my workflow better, I guess. I've been on Windows since '98. I didn't use macOS until I was 20 and got my first MacBook, and that was when I started doing audio work, or not work, audio production. If I could ever get paid for it, that would be nice. I loved it from the jump, but also it was a bit of a acclimatization process, I think the word is. It took me a while to wrap my head around it, but I ended up enjoying it far more than Windows as a daily driver for everything except for gaming. And even now with the Apple Silicon stuff and crossover, it has been amazing for gaming with most of the stuff that I've tried to run. So I have no more reason to be on Windows. I will do a couple of videos like this. I want to do one for macOS, one for Windows, and then I also want to do one, my forays into Arch, because, or Arc, I don't know, don't judge me. I barely know Linux. I used Ubuntu like when I was a teenager. I know Zish and Bash and Vim and Emacs and that kind of stuff just by name, but I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to Linux. So I'll get into that in the future because that's something that does interest me. So yeah, let's give it a go, eh? Cool, we're up. Now, I'm going to try not to look at my notes too much because although this is like only the second time I've had to set this up, I do want to make sure I don't get overwhelmed and forget what I'm doing. First of all, Spotlight. This new Spotlight search in Tahoe. I am not the biggest fan of Tahoe already because of liquid glass. Holy shit. I've only used this laptop for 5 minutes and it is ugly. But we'll fix some of that. The scaling, first and foremost. Like, I don't know what... Look how much better that looks. Let's just check OBS hasn't shat itself. Nope, looks good. All right. Now, next one. This is something that people, I have been startled by when I've had to use other people's MacBooks and they haven't had these options turned on. Under the trackpad settings, which, by the way, open Spotlight and type anything in, we'll replace that with Alfred soon, I reckon, because although this new one is meant to be good, I can't be bothered. Alfred's nice and minimal, and for something I use all the time. Okay, so we've got tap to click. I have that turned on already because it's one of the first things I do. Just lets you tap the trackpad instead of click it in. And speaking of clicking in, I normally like to turn force click off because although I'm sure it is good for some workflows, I don't use it at all. The tap with three fingers thing is all right. Those are fine to leave. The gestures, I usually control with an app like BetterTouch tool. We'll talk more about apps when I'm installing stuff, but I generally turn all of these off. Mission control and app expose are like all right. Show desktop, I like to leave, although we'll sort that out later. It's just a quick way of hiding things, I guess. Not that I have anything to hide. Okay. Now, the dock. Now, I can sit here and remove all this stuff. And I usually do it out of spite because I don't even use the dock. Some people rely on it every day. I find it so much easier to just open Alfred or Spotlight or whatever you choose to open anything. If I have an app that comes to mind and I want to use it, I control space, command space, type it in and it's there. It's very easy to hit enter. Alright, and we can also right-click, turn hiding on. I'll be using an app soon that's one of the best apps I've ever used on Mac to hide it permanently so that when I mouse over it won't come out. This is completely optional, of course, but it's worth doing if you're a minimalist riser like me. There is a code that I'll put, maybe chuck up there, that if you do use the dock is quite handy because it removes the delay of mousing over like this. Would recommend. All right, now, Finder. Oh God, I'm hesitant to even open that, and I can't do that, okay. Okay, first and foremost, we want to enter Finder settings. And usually turn off this external disks thing because otherwise it will have a desktop icon for USBs. I keep desktop icons hidden as well. I'm not an elitist, I just like things clean, I guess. And a little bit of an elitist. Advanced. This is an important one. When performing a search this Mac, it'll search everything if you just type anything into the spotlight or into the magnifying glass in the top right. We just kind of want to keep it to search the current folder. You can always click a button to make it search the whole drive, but just a quick search is easier. Keep folders on top. I like to do this because it's a bit more Windows-ish and that's what I'm used to. Don't necessarily have to. Remove items in the trash, show warning. Yep, that'll do for now. There is a way, I think it might be under show view options, which is separate from preferences, but for whatever reason, it's equally as important. Usually I sort by name. We want to keep it, I mean, this is all personal preference stuff, but if you set it up when you initially set the laptop up, you'll have a much better time because you can save the Finder windows for each. Oh, no wonder. Bit of gunk. And you can only be a princess like me about this for so long because then you start to get scratches on your MacBook screen and then you go real crazy for a little bit until you're used to it again, or until something like the entire thing wipes on you, but whatever. On an Apple, it just works. Okay. I like to click Show Library Folder. It helps to get there a bit easier. You can show and hide hidden things by Command Shift and full stop. It's just a bit quicker way of doing it. Calculate all sizes is nice, especially on newer laptops that can handle it faster. Just to see the sizes of folders. Why did I do that again? I will leave this for now. Is this list view? Yeah. All right, let's click Users Defaults because that seems fine to me. Command W to close Windows. Command Q to close the program. You can't close Finder. It's built in. Oh, this liquid glass, man, it's abysmal. There is a way to get it to open to my drive on default, which I usually set up. I may have to look that up, how I've done that later on. But that'll do for Finder for now. Okay, Safari. Plenty of browsers you can use. I choose to use Safari. I highly recommend Arc and Dia by the browser company. They're pretty cool, new, fashionable, modern. Arc is built on Chromium, so it is a bit of a hog. I think Dia is too. Dia scrapped, or made the tabbed browsing, the horizontal browsing experience, or whatever it is, horizontal tab stuff. Arc has a really cool layout. Love it. I used it for quite a bit, but then found that it was just drawing power a lot faster than what Safari does. So that's another thing. We'll get to that in a second. Actually, you know what? Let's do it now. Hot corners. And I don't like this already. This is this thing to the bottom right. This by default. Tend to turn it off, but there are some cool options here that you can use. Oh, and how could I forget the most important thing with this it's way hidden under accessibility. Pointer control? Yeah, trackpad options, pointer control. This use trackpad for dragging is amazing. 3-finger drag. It makes the Mac experience so much better for me. Like, I can just, 3 fingers there, move stuff around. This doesn't resize because Apple, but if we pull up a Safari window, I can show you how that works with just 3 fingers. Love it. Okay, Safari, they removed compact mode going to Tahoe, which sucks because now why are these the websites that come to mind? It's not too bad, I suppose, but I much preferred having the tabs in the address bar portion. Whatever. We'll deal with that for now. I wanted to quickly mention, like, Firefox is probably the way to go nowadays. To be completely honest, I think we should stay away from Chromium stuff. There is Zen browser, which is built on Firefox, but is meant to look like Arc. I would recommend checking that out. I'm just going to stick with Safari for now, nice and easy. Something that is important for Safari is uBlock, of course, which I believe is through the App Store now. So we'll get uBlock Lite. It's a bit less powerful because I think Google have added some restrictions. Either way, still seems to work for the stuff I need. And AdGuard's another one there that works pretty well too. I think before my wipe, I had both AdGuard and uBlock working at the same time, just for double protection. But yeah, see how you go. All right, this is an important one. I don't know much about Linux, but something that I do know that works quite damn well is Homebrew. Homebrew is definitely worth installing if you even know the basics of command line stuff. We want to open terminal, copy and paste this thing in, and bang it in. Password on terminal comes up empty. Gosh. Yeah, there we go. going to install Xcode CLI, which is needed for Homebrew, and it's also going to install Homebrew. It's going to work really well to install programs or anything like that. All we have to do is type in brew, install, the program name, the app name, casks, I think they're called, formulae. It's a little bit beyond me, but it's a real nice and easy way to install things. And I know some people like to get like a list of heaps of Homebrew stuff, run a simple script, and it'll install a bunch of stuff for you that you've already pre-planned to save you having to do all this kind of thing. So while Homebrew is downloading and installing, we're going to do something pretty good to protect ourselves online, because if you're a little bit like me, you downloaded some dodgy stuff from Russia. Thank you, Russia. My number one friend when it comes to installing programs. You want to make sure that you let only the things in and let only the things out that you want. So Lulu on macOS is an awesome way of doing that. Open source, free, it's what you want. We just need to find the download link right in front of me. Downloading things I have always loved on macOS. Simple click and drag it into the applications folder. I remember Command W to close Windows. That's still going. Lulu, we want to just set up as a basic in and out, blocking everything. This is optional again, of course, but I like to make sure that the things that I let through, I know what I'm letting through, and if I need to give internet to something temporarily, it's just a matter of adjusting a quick Lulu script. Cool. Oh, and here we go. That might fail now because of this. Cool. Let's run that again. Just pops up with that. I click allow. Easy. So that way, if you're installing any dodgy stuff, you've got an idea of when it tries to call home. Okay. Now, like I mentioned with the brew installing a bunch of stuff at once, I like to use a website on Mac called macapps.link. The one for Windows I use is called Ninite, N-I-N-I-T-E. Both of them work really well. You just click a bunch of programs that you want and it'll download them all at once for you. So, what do I need? Better touch tool, Alfred, Sublime Text. Really good text editor. I don't need it right now though. Docker, Visual Studio Code. I wish I needed these things. Wish I knew what all of these did, but Transmission is an awesome torrent client. iTerm 2, pretty much an essential terminal client if you need to change anything about terminal. Keka is my archiver of choice for RAR files, zip files, all that kind of thing. It's got a cute mascot and it works real minimal in the background. It's nice. Stuff like CCleaner you don't really need anymore. It's still like fine to run if you don't really know what you're doing. App Cleaner is a great program. I would recommend this for sure. I use a paid one called App Cleaner and Uninstaller. If you don't want to mess around with pirated apps, go App Cleaner, definitely. Just shows you like a list of all your programs and you can uninstall them that way. And also clean up any residual smaller files that might be hidden on the drive from the program. Bartender used to be like the #1 thing for cleaning up the top right bar up here, the menu bar, but Ice is the way to go. It's just completely free. Pretty sure it's open source way of doing it. We'll get that a bit. I just use Command 1 and 2 to go between the windows. It's whatever numbers. iStat menus is all right. There are like free alternatives. It's just for showing your stat stuff up the top right, but I find it's not the best to have because stuff's like constantly running in the background, and also if you're like me, you're constantly checking it, and I just don't need to. On these Apple Silicon laptops, man, they're fine for everything I throw at them. Daisy Disk I love. It's just a quick graphical interface, similar to Windows Stat or something like that on Windows. WizTree I think is the better one. But Daisy Disk will basically just show you a graphical interface of how much you've got on your drives, what's using what, and will let you delete them through that. So it's way easier to clean up your drives. Malwarebytes, can't go wrong. Spotify, I do not pay for and never have paid for. There's a thing called Spicefy, I'll show you later on. There's all sorts of ways to get around that. Do not pay for those companies, corporations. Like, they're using it for warfare. It's a music app that they're buying missiles with, and they don't pay artists anything. It's fucked. Anyway, VLC is fine. I like Ina a lot more. My only complaint is that it takes a little bit to open compared to the others, but it's pretty sexy. It's got good features, whatever. Steam I usually use through Crossover nowadays, so I won't bother with. And Calibre is really good for ebooks. We'll throw that in there. Gotta put my damn camera in the freezer. All right, back to it. I've had OBS recording the whole time. Yep, thought so. Okay. Oh yeah, with Alfred, my chosen Spotlight replacement, which we'll install in the background here, and I'll get set up later on. It's my personal favorite. I have tried Raycast a little bit, and so many people love to rave about Raycast. It does too much, if you ask me. I can get like 4 or 5 smaller, usually open source apps that will do the stuff that Raycast will do. I don't have to pay a subscription service for AI features, and most importantly, it's not so big. Like, I have Alfred set up to just be a tiny window here, the size of the Spotlight search window bar. It's way quicker. Alfred workflows as well, just as powerful if you get into it and deeper. I can understand some people just want their command spacebar window to do everything. Yeah, I use it just to open apps, do calculations, and I don't know, like, there's a few other little features I had it set up. Unfortunately, because I lost everything, I didn't have a list of how I had everything set up, so I'm just gonna have to do it as I go. But giving you tips anyway. All right. A big thing that I like to do here, and something very powerful that's underutilized massively, is Apple's shortcuts. Awesome, it still has the shortcuts that I have there. There's a program called Shortery. I'll show you here because I'll install it in my own time. But Shortery basically lets you run automations for your shortcuts, and you can bind those to all sorts of things like key maps. You can have it set to HomeKit stuff as well, so when you come home it'll run some of your shortcuts, or when you leave, all that kind of stuff. I have it basically set up for opening programs. There's a few other apps I've used, like RCMD, Write Command. Launch Palette was another one. I have just found that setting up Shortery like this is the best way of doing it. All I have to do to open my Finder, for example, Command E, similar to Windows E. To open my Safari, Command S. It'll override that kind of stuff, so you can rebind the buttons if you want. I have like Ableton on, wait, hold on, not Command. I had it set to Option, so like Option S. Option would be my launcher. So Option S for Safari, Option E for the Finder, Option M for music. You get the point. Supercharge. Now, this is one of, and I keep doing it, it's habit. When you get these when you get these shortcuts down pat, it makes the experience so much faster and comfier. So we want Supercharge by this Sindre guy. Amazing. this app is, we want the trial because I will pay for it, man. It's it gives you a pop-up every 12 hours telling you to remind you to pay for it, and I think it's like $12 or $15, and I just haven't been able to keep enough money around yet to chuck it to him. But yeah, highly recommend this program. It's got all sorts of built-in features that will make the macOS experience both smoother and also a little bit more, I hate to say like Windows, it's just what I'm used to, like being able to cut files and paste them with command shortcuts. In Supercharger settings, you can see it's got a bunch of tweaks, all sorts of stuff that can like come in real handy. Take your time with it, look through, set things that you want to set, and don't worry about the things that you don't. It is a incredibly powerful app for sure. I don't know what OBS's problem is, man. I just lost the last recording I did. So, I suppose the bad luck hasn't disappeared completely, but let me go through and see where I was. Another thing that's kind of like Ice that I love is a app called AltTab, which just emulates the Windows AltTab experience. Lets you command tab and do this, except it'll show you a thumbnail, and there's different ways you can set it up anyway, but it'll let you command tab through apps, and also there's a separate shortcut for going through windows of like certain apps. OpenEmu is awesome for macOS for emulation. It's just basically the best thing for video game emulation on Mac. Kodi, if you want to set it up. Plex, if you know what you're doing, they're awesome local media hosting, and you can also use them for connecting across the internet to other people's hosting servers. Handbrake's like a GUI for FFmpeg, I think, which lets you transcode your files, all that kind of thing. Discord runs on Electron, which is just a Chromium wrapper. It's a hog when it comes to resources. I wouldn't recommend it. I would make your own web app through Safari for that one. I am having pretty poor luck when it comes to this video recording. I just fixed the scaling in OBS. I'm noticing that the video's out of sync and I've lost video already, but whatever, I'm just gonna keep powering through. I don't know what I have and what I don't have, so it's probably going to be like a Frankenstein cut of things I've said not matching up with the video, but you'll still hopefully learn something. Okay, another thing I like to use is capping my battery. An easy way of doing that is a GUI-less thing that just runs in the command line called bat. There's other programs like Al Dente and Coconut Battery, I think it's called, whatever. I just kind of like to use bat because it's a quick bat limit 80 or bat limit 100 if I want to disable it. The reason I limit it at 80 is because it's meant to be better for the health of the battery in the long run. I tried to use Apple's built-in battery health thingy, left my computer plugged in for like 2 weeks and it still didn't change anything, so just ended up deciding to cap it myself. Brew install bat to show you how Homebrew works. Nice and easy. All right. In the school network, it was pretty locked down, so I had to get around that in certain ways, and the best way I found, best and easiest way, was Cloudflare WARP's 1.1.1.1, or just the Cloudflare WARP app built in. I'll get that sorted later, but it'll let you go to naughty websites that most places won't allow, sometimes even Australia. And I love this camera, but overheating every 20 minutes is not fun. All right, I pulled up some stuff to show off, hopefully quickly. Amethyst is a window manager, basically will organize your windows as you open them up for you. It's awesome if you're caught in doing productive stuff and you don't want to have to move your windows around. Would highly recommend it. There's other alternatives like Yabai and Aerospace, I believe I tried, but I found Amethyst just the easiest to work with. Got it all set up and didn't really use it too much. it's still worth doing. Notion is my notebook of choice, I guess. It's really powerful, awesome to use on over multiple devices, and completely free if you're not part of a business or using it as a business, but you can use it collaboratively with others. Not me, do it solo. Both Notion and Obsidian are closed source, but Obsidian keeps things locally. I much prefer the idea of that, so probably going to set that up in the near future and transition my stuff over. But for now, happy with Notion. And I'm just going to show you quickly how I make web apps through Safari. It's just over the top here, Safari, File, Add to Dock. We'll just call this Gemini. And now I set this up usually with a Shortery program, or Shortery command, sorry. Something that Supercharge fixes for me is like being able to double click on title bars and have them minimize. So many little things that Supercharge does when I eventually get it set up. This just opens basically a tiny window without any tabs or anything like that. So I normally just get it down here, and then I set like Option G to open my Gemini window, for example. What else can I do before my camera? Beautiful, awesome little camera that I love overheats again. Okay. I'm gonna put like a list of apps in the description because with like a little write-up of each, because like I've got so much more I can recommend and don't have the time or energy to do this anymore. So gonna just power through what I can and type the rest. I also have a really good website recommendation, which is my dodgy Russian one that I'll put in the description. It's in base 64, so you'll have to figure out how to decrypt that one yourself. It's not going to be hard. I really wanted this to go smoother. I need a camera that doesn't overheat, and I need OBS to stay stable. But I mean, that might be asking a bit much. I wanted to show all these apps off, but I would rather it's going to be a huge pain and something that I'm sorry, not willing to deal with, having to get all these apps set up and then individually record and cut together all the videos of me using the little apps. So if you're interested, just have a peek, take my recommendations, they're good ones. Nice. Sentinel. Actual is a open source version of You Need a Budget, which I set up recently, which I would highly recommend, just to try and keep track of my money a little bit. Clean Shot is the way to go for screen capture, video capture. Works awesomely. Amphetamine is another one that I need to... I mean, it would be good to have for my brain, but yeah, no. Amphetamine on the Mac Store. App Store, really? Anyway, it basically just runs in the background. You can click it. It'll stop your laptop from sleeping while you're doing a download or for a certain amount of time. Works well. How could I forget this big ugly thing in front of me that you can't see on Mac, on OBS, sorry. This is awesome. This is like this. These screens are like not true 16:9 or 16:10 or whatever. They have like a bit on the top for the notch, and it's not even usable. So this thing will just add like a black bar to the top of the screen and hide the notch. Works amazingly, and I hate that little thing. So yeah, whatever. Like that doesn't need internet access, but if it's got to update itself to fix a break in the OS or something like that, we'll just let it happen. Speaking of, oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, look at that. I don't know if you can see that in OBS, but I'm happy with that. Blip, I love. It will let you send files between Windows and Mac and Android and all that kind of stuff. Kind of just as well as AirDrop works. Probably not as well as AirDrop works, but I mean, it's been so good that I don't even notice. Highly recommend getting this one. BetterDisplay is another one. Just basically lets you use custom scaling on your screens as well as custom brightness, so you can push the brightness harder than Mac allows you by default. It'll also let you set up, I believe, like profiles. So like when you plug in external displays and things like that, it'll do it all for you in the background. I mentioned it earlier, but Crossover is incredible. It's just basically like a shell for Wine, I think, which is an old program that lets you run Windows apps on Linux. But this just lets you harness the power of the Mac GPU, and I've been able to run and play all sorts of games, like finish full games that I'm surprised even run on this laptop without an issue. Highly recommend it. Spicetify is the thing I mentioned earlier. Here's a link for it, spicetify.app. It's very easy to get set up. It is a little tricky sometimes when Spotify break it. You might find that you have to open up Terminal and run the command again every month or two. Depends how much you use it. I have been trying to get away from Spotify and downloading all my music again, so in the process of. And I don't know, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Like, don't pay for Spotify, don't pay for YouTube. This is going to come out way messier than I intended, but I mean, I've got it done, so now I can actually finally use my laptop again. I will maybe make another quick video when I'm done, maybe not, just to show off some of the customization differences, but I mean, it's already kind of looking how I had it before, except for this horrible wallpaper that reminds me I've got liquid glass. Spotlight search is kind of minimized now, which is good. Maybe I'll try it, maybe not. No, actually no. I had my Alfred workflow set up so well. I could eject all my drives just, ooh, okay. Built-in Supercharge, of course. Yeah. I'm kind of excited because I get to play with this again. I get that I'm recording at 4K D-Log or whatever the fuck, but this awesome little camera should be able to record longer than 15-20 minutes without overheating. Anyway, let's call it. Terrible, did not go the way I expected. Hopefully you learned something. Check the description for links and stuff like that, and see you in the next one.